The Volanthi had never known war. For 10,000 years, their civilization had grown in peace on a beautiful world called Volanther Prime. Their cities floated above crystal-clear oceans, held up by powerful magnetic fields. Their children sang songs in special frequencies that made flowers open and trees grow faster. They were a gentle people with golden skin and 4 bright eyes that could see colors humans would never know. Ambassador Corvus was old, even by Volanthi standards. He had served his people for 200 years, speaking to other civilizations across the galaxy. He had always believed that peace was the natural way of things. He had always believed that no species could be truly evil. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Corvus stood on the observation deck of the Grand Council Station, a massive structure that floated in orbit above his homeworld. He was looking at the stars, thinking about a trade agreement he needed to finish, when his assistant ran into the room. "Ambassador," the young Volanthi said, his voice shaking. "Something is coming." Corvus turned to look at the display screen. At first, he did not understand what he was seeing. There were shapes emerging from fold space, the dimension that ships use to travel faster than light. But there were so many of them, hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. The ships were black, darker than the space around them. They moved in perfect formation, like a swarm of insects descending on prey. "What are they?" Corvus whispered. His answer came in the form of a transmission that played across every frequency, every channel, every device on Volanther Prime. "This is the Dravok supremacy. Your world now belongs to us. Do not resist. Do not flee. Surrender immediately, and some of you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and you will all die." Corvus felt his 3 hearts begin to beat faster. The Dravok. He had heard stories about them, terrible stories that he had dismissed as exaggerations. They were a species of conquerors who had destroyed dozens of worlds. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who stood in their way. "We have to contact the council," Corvus said. "We have to ask for help." He ran to the communication array and began sending messages to every civilization he knew. The Centauri hegemony, the most powerful economic force in the galaxy. The Crix Collective, a hive mind species with millions of ships. The Thalorian Empire, ancient and wise. 17 civilizations in total, all of them members of the Galactic Council. All of them sworn to protect peace and justice, while Corvus sent his desperate messages. The Dravok began their attack. The first floating city to fall was called Harmony. It was home to 2 million Volanthi, including a famous school where children learned to sing. The Dravok ships fired beams of pure energy at the magnetic generators that kept the city in the air. When the generators failed, Harmony fell into the ocean below. The screams of 2 million people were cut short by the impact. Corvus watched from the station above, tears streaming down his golden face. He had never seen death before, not like this. His people did not kill. They did not even eat meat. And now they were dying by the millions. "Please," he transmitted again and again. "We are the Volanthi. We are under attack. We have no weapons. We cannot defend ourselves. Please, someone, anyone, help us." The responses began to arrive. The Centauri hegemony expressed their deep concern. They had calculated the cost of intervention and determined that it would not be profitable. They wished the Volanthi the best of luck. The Crix Collective had analyzed the situation. They concluded that the Volanthi had no resources worth the expenditure of military assets. They would not be sending ships. The Thalorian Empire sent a formal message of regret. Their ancient protocols prevented them from interfering in conflicts between other species. They hoped the Volanthi would understand. One by one, the responses came. One by one, they said the same thing in different words. "We are sorry. We cannot help. You are on your own. More cities fell. The singing schools went silent. The flower gardens burned. The crystal oceans turned dark with ash and death. Corvus stopped counting the dead when the number reached 50 million. His homeworld, his beautiful, peaceful homeworld, was being destroyed while the galaxy watched and did nothing. Why? He screamed at his communication screen. Why will no one help us? But he knew the answer. The Volanthi had nothing to offer. They had no military power, no strategic value, no rare resources. They were a peaceful people on a quiet world, and peaceful people on quiet worlds were easy to ignore. The Dravok ground forces landed 3 days after the initial attack. They were massive creatures, twice the size of a Volanthi, with thick gray skin and teeth designed for tearing flesh. They moved through the ruined cities, rounding up survivors and putting them in camps. Corvus learned later what happened in those camps. The Dravok did not believe in wasting resources. The Lanthi, who were strong enough to work, were sent to labor camps on distant worlds. Those who were too old, too young, or too weak were simply eliminated. The Grand Council Station was one of the last places to fall. Corvus watched as Dravok ships surrounded it, cutting off any chance of escape. He knew he would die soon. He knew his entire species might be wiped from the galaxy. But before the station fell, he had one last chance to send a message. He put everything into it, all his grief, all his despair, all his fading hope. This is Ambassador Corvus of the Volanthi people. We are dying. Our world is burning. We have asked for help from everyone we know, and no one has answered. I do not know if anyone is listening to this. I do not know if anyone cares. But if you can hear me, please, I beg you. We are not warriors. We are teachers and singers and gardeners. We do not deserve this. Please, show us that there is still mercy in this galaxy. Please, help us. The message traveled across the stars, bouncing from relay to relay, spreading in all directions. It reached 100 worlds, 1,000, 1,000,000, and in a small solar system, orbiting an ordinary yellow star, the message reached a small blue planet called Earth. It was the only world that answered. Commander Lisa Bennett had served in the United Earth Navy for 20 years. She had joined when she was 22, right after humanity discovered how to travel faster than light. She had wanted to see the stars, to explore new worlds, to meet alien species. She had never expected to fight a war. Earth's fleet was small. 12 ships in total, built for exploration and science, not combat. They carried telescopes and sensors and medical equipment. They did not carry weapons because humanity had believed, perhaps foolishly, that the galaxy would be a peaceful place. Lisa was on the bridge of her ship, the UN Resolve, when the distress signal arrived. She was reviewing crew schedules and thinking about a mapping mission they had planned for next month. Her lieutenant, a young man named Danny Reyes, interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, you need to hear this." Danny played the message. It was the voice of Ambassador Corvus, tired and broken, begging for help as his world died around him. Lisa listened in silence. When the message ended, she played it again. Then again. "How far away is this?" she asked. 14 days at maximum speed, Danny said. "Commander, Earth Command is already talking about it. They want to form a committee." Lisa knew what that meant. Meetings, discussions, debates about risk and reward. Weeks of talking while people died. "Get me a channel to the other ships," she said. Within minutes, she was speaking to all 11 captains in Earth's fleet. She played them the message and asked a simple question. "What do we do?" Captain Marcus Young of the Pioneer was the first to answer. "We go." "That is not even a question." "Lisa, this is dangerous," said Captain Roger Hayes of the Horizon. "We have no weapons. We do not even know how many enemy ships there are." "I know," Lisa said. I am not ordering anyone to come. I am asking. One by one, the captains made their choice. 8 ships decided to go. 4 decided to stay. Lisa did not blame the ones who stayed. They had families. They had responsibilities. Not everyone could throw their life away on a desperate rescue mission. Earth Command tried to stop them. The Secretary of Defense called Lisa personally and told her she was making a mistake. The President of the United Nations called next, his voice serious and worried. Commander Bennett, you are taking our fleet into a war zone. You have no weapons, no training for this, no plan. The Dravok have 10,000 warships. What can 8 unarmed vessels possibly accomplish? Lisa thought about her answer carefully. Mr. President, I do not have a plan. I do not have weapons. I have 8 ships full of people who heard someone crying for help and decided to answer. Maybe we will die. Maybe we will accomplish nothing. But I would rather die trying to help than live knowing I did nothing. The president was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. God help you, Commander. And God help us all. The 8 ships of Earth's rescue fleet entered fold space 6 hours later. For 14 days, they traveled through a dimension that human scientists still did not fully understand. For 14 days, they prepared for something they could not possibly be prepared for. Lisa spent most of that time learning about the Volanti. She read every report, every study, every piece of information that humanity had gathered about them. They were a peaceful species, perhaps the most peaceful in the known galaxy. They had never harmed anyone. They had never threatened anyone. They had simply existed quietly and beautifully until the Dravok decided to take their world. She also learned about the Dravok. They were the opposite of the Volanti in every way. They lived for conquest. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered, and weakness deserved to be destroyed. They had conquered 47 worlds before Valenther Prime. They had killed billions. Danny came to her quarters on the 10th day of the journey. He was young, only 26, with dark hair and worried eyes. Commander, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are we doing this? I mean, I want to help. Everyone on this ship wants to help. But why? The Volanti are not human. We never even met them before. Why does their suffering matter to us? Lisa thought about the question. It was a good question, and she was not sure she had a good answer. I think, she said slowly, it is because we remember. Humans remember what it is like to suffer. We remember wars and famines and plagues. We remember being helpless while terrible things happened. And maybe that is why we cannot look away when we see it happening to someone else. Danny nodded slowly. Do you think we can actually save them? I do not know, but I think we have to try. On the 14th day, the 8 ships of Earth's fleet dropped down to fold space above Valenther Prime. What they saw made them all fall silent. The planet below was burning. Great clouds of smoke covered entire continents. The floating cities that had made Valenther famous were gone, crashed into the oceans, or blasted into rubble. Dravok warships filled the sky, thousands of them surrounding the dying world like vultures around a corpse. My God, Danny whispered. Lisa took a deep breath. She had known it would be bad. She had not known it would be this bad. Open a channel to the Dravok fleet, she said. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. Her communications officer nodded. Channel open, Commander. Lisa stood straight, looked at the screen, and began to speak. This is Commander Lisa Bennett of the United Earth Navy. I am addressing the Dravok forces currently attacking Valenther Prime. You will stop your attacks immediately. You will release all prisoners. You will leave this system within 12 hours. This is not a request. This is a demand. The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at their commander. the woman who had just threatened the most powerful military force in the galaxy with 8 unarmed ships, the Dravok. Response came quickly. It was laughter. General Vrex had commanded the Dravok military for 30 years. He had conquered 11 worlds personally, killed millions of enemies with his own hands, and risen to become the most feared warrior in the supremacy. Nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing frightened him anymore. Until now. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the image of the human female on his screen. She was small, soft, with pale skin and strange round eyes. She looked like prey, like something his ancestors would have hunted for food. And yet she had just demanded that he would draw his forces from a world he had already conquered. "Little human," Rex said, his voice rumbling like thunder. "Do you understand who you are speaking to? The Dravok supremacy has conquered 47 worlds. We have 10,000 warships. Our empire stretches across 1,000 star systems. And you bring 8 tiny vessels to challenge us?" The human did not flinch. "I am not challenging you, General. I am here to stop you." Rex laughed again. His officers laughed with him. This was the funniest thing he had heard in years. "Stop us? With what? Our sensors show your ships carry no weapons. You have no military capability at all. You are nothing but prey, pretending to be a predator." "You are correct," the human said. "We have no weapons. We have no military training. We are scientists and doctors and explorers. But we heard the Volanti asking for help, and we came anyway. Then you came to die. Maybe. But here is what you do not understand about humans, General. We are new to this galaxy. We do not know the rules. We do not know the proper way to behave. All we know is that when someone cries for help, we answer. That is how we are built. That is who we are." Rex snorted. "A species of fools. Perhaps. But while you have been talking to me, my other 7 ships have been landing on the surface. Right now, my people are on the ground with the Volanti survivors. Doctors treating the wounded. Engineers setting up shelters. Volunteers handing out food and water." Rex checked his tactical display. The human was telling the truth. 7 of her ships had descended through the atmosphere and landed in the refugee camps his forces had been preparing to eliminate. Human life signs were mixing with Volanti life signs across multiple locations. "What is the point of this?" Rex demanded. "You cannot save them. You can only die with them. Then we will die with them," Lisa said calmly. "But here is what will happen if you kill us, General. Earth will know. 8 billion humans will know that you murdered their people. And humans, General, have very long memories. You think we fear your species? You are primitives. You only learned to travel between stars 30 years ago. That is true. We are young. We are weak. We have almost nothing compared to your empire. But we grow fast, General. Very fast. And if you kill our people today, every human child will grow up learning your name. They will learn about the Dravok the way our children once learned about the monsters in our history. You will become our enemy. Not today, maybe not for 100 years, but eventually. And when we are strong enough, we will come for you." Rex stared at the screen. He had conquered worlds. He had destroyed fleets. He had never encountered anything like this before. "You are bluffing," he said. "You would sacrifice your own people for strangers? For a species you never even met before?" "Yes," Lisa said simply. "We would. Why? What could you possibly gain?" Lisa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You would not understand even if I explained it. Your species measures everything in terms of gain and loss. Humans do not work that way. We help people because they need help. That is the only calculation that matters." Rex looked at his tactical officer. "How many humans are on the surface?" Approximately 400, General. They are spread across 12 different refugee camps. If we bombard those camps, we will kill them along with the Volanti. Yes, General. Rex turned back to the screen. You would let 400 of your people die for creatures you do not even know? I would die myself, Lisa replied. Every human down there volunteered. They knew the risk. They came anyway. That is what humans do. This is insanity. No, General. This is compassion. I understand it is a foreign concept for your species. Rex felt something strange, something he had not felt in decades. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was uncertainty. He had always known how his enemies would react. He had always been able to predict their behavior based on logic and self-interest. But these humans did not behave logically. They did not act in their own interest. They threw themselves into danger for no apparent reason. It was terrifying. You cannot win this, Rex said, but his voice was less confident than before. Even if you save some of the Volanti today, we will return. We always return. Then, we will be here waiting, Lisa said. And so will every other species that joins us. The galaxy has been watching, General. They have seen what you did, and they have seen what we did. Some of them will remember that when someone asked for help, only humans answered. Some of them will decide they want to be like us instead of like you. No one will stand against the supremacy. Are you sure about that? Because right now, 17 civilizations are watching this conversation. They are watching a species with no weapons and no power stand up to the most feared military in the galaxy. They are watching humans die for strangers. And I think some of them are starting to feel ashamed. Rex said nothing. He was thinking, calculating, trying to find a way out of this situation that did not involve looking weak in front of his entire fleet. 24 hours, Lisa said. I will give you 24 hours to withdraw from this system. If you are still here after that, we will begin transmitting footage of everything you have done to every world in the galaxy. And we will keep transmitting until everyone knows the truth about the Dravok supremacy. The screen went dark. Rex stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by his officers, and for the first time in 30 years, he did not know what to do. Lieutenant Danny Reyes had never seen so much suffering in his life. The refugee camp stretched for miles across what had once been a beautiful valley. Now it was filled with tents, makeshift shelters, and thousands of Volanti, who had lost everything. He was helping unload medical supplies from the shuttle when a small Volanti child approached him. She was young, maybe the equivalent of a human 6-year-old, with golden skin and 4 eyes that were filled with fear. She made a sound that his translator could not understand, a high-pitched musical noise that seemed to contain more emotion than words. It is okay, Danny said softly, kneeling down to her level. You are safe now. We are here to help. The child did not understand his words, but she seemed to understand his tone. She reached out one small hand and touched his face, her fingers tracing the strange shape of his human features. Then she made another sound, softer this time, and Danny's translator finally caught it. Thank you, she was saying. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Danny felt tears forming in his eyes. He picked up the child and carried her toward the medical tent, where Nurse Patricia Sullivan was working without rest. Patricia had been awake for 30 hours. Her hands were covered in blood and medicine, and things she did not want to think about. The Volanti bodies were different from human bodies. The pain was the same everywhere. Burns were burns. Broken bones were broken bones. Grief was grief. Bring her here, Patricia called when she saw Danny. I need to check her for injuries. The child was not badly hurt, just scared and hungry and alone. Patricia gave her some water and a nutrition bar, then handed her off to a Volanti volunteer who was gathering orphan children. How many have we treated? Danny asked. I stopped counting at 500, Patricia said. There are too many. We do not have enough medicine. We do not have enough people. We do not have enough anything. We have ourselves, Danny said. That has to be enough. Above them, Captain Hannah Cole was watching the sky from the bridge of the Endeavour. The ship was on the ground now, its cargo bays converted into emergency shelters. 300 Velanti refugees were sleeping inside, the first real rest many of them had gotten in weeks. Captain, we have movement, her tactical officer reported. Dravok fighters launching from the main fleet. 6 squadrons heading toward the surface. Hannah felt her stomach clench. How long until they reach us? 12 minutes. Get Commander Bennett on the line. Lisa's voice came through immediately. I see them, Hannah. Hold your position. Lisa, if they start shooting, we cannot stop them. We have no shields, no weapons, nothing. They will not shoot. How can you know that? Because I'm betting everything on the fact that General Vrex is not stupid. He knows that killing us will make things worse for him, not better. He's trying to scare us. We cannot let him see that it is working. Hannah looked at her crew. They were all young, all scared, all trying very hard to look brave. She had brought them here knowing they might die. She had asked them to put their lives on the line for strangers. Okay, she said quietly. We hold position. On the surface, Danny saw the Dravok fighters appear in the sky. They were black shapes against the gray clouds, moving fast, weapons glowing with charged energy. The Velanti refugees saw them too and began to panic, screaming and running in all directions. Stay calm, Danny shouted. Everyone stay calm. Get to the shelters. He grabbed the small child he had helped earlier and ran toward the nearest tent. Around him, other humans were doing the same thing, gathering Velanti and leading them to cover. Not because cover would protect them from orbital weapons, but because it was something to do, something to keep the panic from taking over. The fighters reached the camp and began circling overhead. They did not fire. They just flew in slow, menacing patterns, their weapons pointed at the ground. Waiting. Danny looked up at them and felt something change inside him. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Anger, defiance, the absolute refusal to let these monsters win. Go ahead, he whispered to the ships above. Do it. Kill us all. Show the whole galaxy what you really are. The fighters continued to circle. Minutes passed. No one fired. On the resolve, Lisa was watching the standoff with her fists clenched so tight her nails were cutting into her palms. She had gambled everything on this moment. If Rex called her bluff, if he decided to start shooting anyway, 400 humans would die along with thousands of Velanti. But she had meant what she said. Some things were worth dying for. Some things were worth more than survival. General Vrex, she transmitted on an open channel. I notice your fighters are not shooting. I think you are beginning to understand. You can kill us, but you cannot defeat us. You can destroy our bodies, but you cannot destroy what we represent. And that scares you, does it not? There was no response from the Dravok fleet. Every second those fighters stay in the air without shooting, the whole galaxy sees your weakness. They see that you are afraid of 8 unarmed ships. They see that the mighty Dravok supremacy does not know how to handle enemies who are not afraid to die. What do you think your other conquered worlds are thinking right now? What do you think they are hoping for? Still no response. 23 hours left, General. Then we start transmitting. Every atrocity, every murder, every destroyed city. The whole galaxy will know. And they will remember. The fighters pulled away. They climbed back into the sky, away from the refugee camps, away from the humans who had refused to run. Within an hour, they had returned to the main fleet, on the ground. Danny Reyes held the Velanti child against his chest, and watched the ships disappear. He was shaking, he realized. His whole body was trembling with relief and fear and something that felt like victory. They had not won yet. The Dravok fleet was still there. But something had changed. Something important. The humans had stood their ground, and the Dravok had blinked first. The Dravok fleet left Valanther Prime 22 hours after Lisa Bennett issued her ultimatum. They did not announce their departure. They did not send any messages. They simply folded their ships back into faster-than-light travel and disappeared, leaving behind a broken world and millions of survivors who could not believe they were still alive. General Vrex would later claim that the withdrawal was a strategic decision. He would tell his superiors that the Volanthi world had been stripped of all valuable resources and was no longer worth occupying. He would never mention the 8 human ships or the woman who had stared him down without a single weapon, but the galaxy knew the truth. 17 civilizations had watched the confrontation. They had seen a young primitive species stand up to the most feared military power in known space. They had seen humans put their lives between monsters and victims, armed with nothing but stubbornness and compassion. Everything changed after that dot 1 year after the Battle of Valanther Prime. Ambassador Corvith stood before the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from over 200 species. Most of them had done nothing while his people died. Most of them had calculated the costs and decided that Volanthi lives were not worth saving. Corvith was not there to accuse them. He was there to introduce someone. The council recognizes the representative from Earth, the speaker announced. Lisa Bennett rose from her seat. She was wearing simple civilian clothes now, not a uniform. She had resigned her military commission to serve as Earth's first official ambassador to the galactic community. It had been a busy year, and she looked tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "Thank you, Speaker," she said. "I will try to be brief. 1 year ago, my species received a distress call from the Volanthi people. We were new to the galaxy. We had no power, no influence, no military strength. We had every reason to ignore that call, just as everyone else did." She paused and looked around the chamber. Some of the representatives looked away. Others met her gaze with expressions ranging from shame to defiance. "We did not ignore it. We came, and we stood between the Volanthi and the Dravok, and somehow we all survived. I am not here to lecture you about what you should have done. I am here to talk about what we are going to do next." Lisa took a deep breath. "Today, I am announcing the formation of the Compassion Alliance. Earth, Valanther, and 3 other worlds have already joined. The rules are simple. When a member world asks for help, the other members answer. No calculations. No cost-benefit analysis. Just action." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "This is unprecedented," the Centauri representative said. "Such an alliance has no basis in galactic law." "You are correct," Lisa replied. "There is no law that requires people to help each other. There is no rule that says we have to care about strangers. But humans have learned something over our long and bloody history. We have learned that the species that helps each other survives. The species that abandons each other falls. This will destabilize the entire galactic order," the Thalorian ambassador argued. "Established powers will see it as a threat." "Good," Lisa said simply. "The established order let the Volanthi die. Maybe it needs to be destabilized." The chamber erupted into argument, voices rising in a dozen different languages. Lisa waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "I know what you are thinking. Humans are young. Humans are weak. Humans will fail and disappear like so many other idealistic species before them. Maybe you are right. Maybe we will fail. But I promise you this. We will keep trying. Every time someone cries for help, we will answer. Every time someone is being destroyed for being weak, we will stand in the way. And maybe, Eventually, some of you will decide to stand with us. After the session ended, Corvith found Lisa on the observation deck. She was staring out at the stars, her face tired but peaceful. "Commander Bennett," he said, still using her old title, Ambassador Corvith, "I wanted to thank you. Again, I know I have said it many times, but I do not think I can ever say it enough." Lisa shook her head. "You do not need to thank us. We did what anyone should have done." Corvith made a soft sound that her translator interpreted as gentle disagreement. "No, Commander, that is exactly the point. Anyone should have done what you did, but no one else did. 17 civilizations heard our call. 17 civilizations decided we were not worth saving. Only humans answered. Then the galaxy needs to change." "Yes," Corvith agreed. "And I believe it will. Because of you. Because your species showed us something we had forgotten. You showed us that strength is not about weapons and ships. It is about the willingness to sacrifice for others. It is about standing up when standing up seems impossible." Lisa turned to face him. "My people have a saying. The measure of a society is how it treats its weakest members. I think that applies to galaxies too. It is a good saying. It is something we have to keep learning over and over. Humans are not naturally good, Corvith. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history, but we keep trying to be better. We keep trying to live up to our own ideals, even when we fail." Corvith was silent for a moment. "Do you think the Compassion Alliance will succeed?" Lisa smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "I do not know. But I know that 5 worlds have already joined. Tomorrow there might be 6. Next year there might be 50. Change happens slowly, Corvith. It happens one choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. We planted a seed today. What grows from it is up to the galaxy." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dravok were planning their next conquest. Somewhere out there, other species were suffering, crying for help, wondering if anyone would answer. But now they knew the truth. Now they knew that there was at least one species in the galaxy that would come when called. One species that measured strength, not in weapons, but in willingness. One species that had looked at the darkness between the stars and decided to be a light. The Volanthi had pleaded for mercy, and only humans had answered. It was not because humans were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. It was because humans remembered what it felt like to need help and receive none. It was because humans had learned through centuries of pain and struggle. That compassion was not weakness, Dodd. It was the greatest strength of all. Corvith reached out and touched Lisa's shoulder, a gesture of respect among his people. Eva's people. "Thank you," he said one more time. "For everything." Lisa placed her hand over his. "You are welcome. And I promise you, we will not stop. Not ever. As long as there are humans in this galaxy, no one will cry for help alone." It was a promise she intended to keep. It was a promise humanity would keep for 10,000 years. And when the history books were written, when the stories were told to children across 100 worlds, they would all begin the same way. They pleaded for mercy. Only humans answered. And everything changed.